Hi, everybody. John Melby with Become Demand Driven. You know, I run into people who ask me questions all the time, and sometimes I get a great question that I really want to talk through with people. So, yesterday's question was, how do we improve distribution success and reduce part shortages? And is it possible for us to create some sort of an automated planning process for order release? So let me tackle this in kind of two directions. The first is the systems that we're using today are not working very well in that regard. How do I know that? Because I got the question from people saying what we're doing isn't really working. You cannot rely on the traditional MRP planning outputs without human intervention. MRP gives us our outputs. And everybody I've ever talked to says, I pull that information, I put it into a spreadsheet, and then I apply my knowledge and my business experience to make the output fit what I think we need to do. So creating the first problem is nobody's using the MRP output without manipulation. And what we've seen is this focus on precision planning and trying to double down on forcing precision planning, which is mainly focused on getting a better forecast. And that assumes that other disruptions are solved. So we may have a perfect forecast, but it'll only work if there's no supply disruptions, there's no labor problems, there's no machine breakdowns, and there's nothing else causing a disruption, which we all know is not true. So the chance for automating our order release only works if we trust the process. And clearly, we don't trust the process. And my bold statement for this video is we will not solve future problems without changing the old approach that we've been using for about 50 years. We have to do something different. And occasionally we will hit success with those old methods, but it's accidental. And accidental success is not sustainable. So what can we do instead? First of all, in order for progress to be achieved, stakeholders have to agree on a calculation, on math that calculates a target inventory for each individual part number, and maybe in distribution, also the location. We can't talk about aggregate total inventory dollars. We have to talk about individual SKU location combinations and have a target for that. Once we have a target, that also implies that we have a range that we're trying to maintain. Not just we're not trying to hit an exact number, but somewhere between here and here, that's the range we're trying to maintain. And once we have that range, we now can have a tracking mechanism that says, how am I doing? My inventory balance over the last 6 months has been in the range, it's been below the range, it's been above the range. And by doing that, we create trust that our methods are working and we maintain that level of inventory. And by the way, we need an ordering mechanism that maintains that level of inventory, not one that recovers when we get way too low, but one that strives to maintain that level of inventory. And in order for that to work, once we determine that that will work, that we've trusted what the system is telling us, we can now automate that ordering mechanism within some sort of reason where we say, my expectation is that the order is going to be somewhere between here and here. And if I get something totally outside of that range, I'm going to go check it out. So I'm going to manage my automated ordering system by exception. And to kind of finish this off, what we really need is a monitoring system for our inventory health that is kind of like the gas gauge that we have in our cars. All right, that we understand how much fuel we have, we understand how far we can go, we understand how close to empty we are, and we know how long of a trip we're trying to make, all of those things. Therefore, we know when we're about to run out of gas or when we might need to get gas, and we can make our calculations accordingly. Running out of gas is not inevitable. So why do we think running out of parts is inevitable? And the answer is that the systems we're using today do not maintain an inventory health. They react to the surprises, the customer changes, the disruptions, all of the things that are happening. We are totally reactive. Instead, if we had a gas gauge for those inventory locations, we would know as we get closer and closer into the trouble zone, we will know that is going to happen, and therefore we will be able to react. And that is why inventory management is so important, and part shortages are not inevitable. They are not something that we just have to deal with and accept. We can essentially virtually eliminate part shortages if we use demand-driven MRP to manage, or demand-driven distribution to make our decisions and maintain levels of inventory, and talk about capability of production or capability of achieving customer demand or reacting to customer demand. Different than waiting for that demand to show up and then panicking, firefighting, and scrambling and expediting. Changes the way we think and allows DDMRP is what allows MRP to work where it should work or can work. And there's a long discussion around that. We're not going to go into that today, but DDMRP offers so many solutions that traditional material requirements planning does not offer. And same thing with distribution requirements planning. DDMRP is the focus of the future. Reach out if you have questions. John Melby, Become Demand Driven, headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you.